What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about on a daily basis, including money, investing, the stock market, the fourth stimulus package update, and stimulus check update. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. Remember, new videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also, thanks for hitting the like button for us down below. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has been kind of caught in a scandal which is now being exposed here. I'm going to show you the details here. Yeah. And this may be part of the reason why he has stalled the Build Back Better package, a stimulus package that's part of the Biden agenda and the Democratic agenda. And part of this is now coming to light. Let me show you some of the details here on screen. Check this out. Yeah, so actually, one of my viewers here actually brought this to my attention here. You can see here, this is from Twitter here. More Perfect Union says Joe Manchin is at the center of a major public corruption scandal. A new New York Times investigation finds that for 30 years, Joe Manchin used his official position to benefit a West Virginia power plant, all while he gets a cut of its revenue. Yeah, this could be illegal and could call for Joe Manchin to be, well, investigated, calls to step down. I mean, is this, yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how far this goes down the rabbit hole. I have a video here to show you here in a second. I'll show you this here in a second, but let me show you some more details here. But this has been going on for potentially 30 years. 30 years, and the New York Times is investigating this. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Joe Manchin has a lot of people looking into this. Yeah, you can see here in the 1980s, Joe Manchin buys several GOB mines, which stands for garbage of bituminous or waste coal. That stands for GOB that we'll be using here going forward, okay? And, quote, as a newly elected state senator, he then gets an air pollution waiver that allows a nearby power plant in Grantown to burn gob. Okay, this is where he starts using this elected power. Privately, Manchin makes a deal to sell his gob to the Grantown power plant in exchange for a cut of the plant's revenue. After the plant opens, Manchin helps pass tax credits to subsidize power plants that burn gob in West Virginia. Another clear conflict of interest. Then, as governor of West Virginia, Senator Joe Manchin, who's now senator, was the governor, quietly works to raise electricity rates for this plant in one of the poorest states in the country. West Virginians who rely on Grantown Power have paid $117 million in excess fees since 2016 alone. And Joe Manchin profits from these higher rates. And then says for decades, Joe Manchin sold his gob exclusively to the Grantown plant. He has put the health, safety, and economic security of his constituents in jeopardy, all to keep raking in the profits. And the New York Times writes a major article about this. You can see the headline here, how Joe Manchin aided coal and earned millions of dollars. Now, you know, when the New York Times has your name in headline here saying this, well, that's a pretty big deal. Grantown is now the last plant in West Virginia to burn gob. Imagine that. The climate plan in Build Back Better legislation would have put it out of business. After Manchin found out, he decided to kill the bill, withholding his vote. Manchin continues to put his profits over our planet and our future. Imagine that. Imagine that. And this is also why, well, Senator Joe Manchin is always, if you ever hear him say, he's always for less regulations. He doesn't like government regulations in energy, right? In coal. Do you think there's a reason there why? Yeah, now check this out. Gives you a little bit more context.
Joe Manchin, the senator, is also a wealthy mining executive, and he sells all his coal to this one power plant here in Granttown, West Virginia. A new investigation reveals that for 30 years, Manchin has been using his public office to benefit that plant, all while getting a cut of the plant's revenue. This arrangement has helped make him a millionaire, in part by forcing people in his own state to pay higher electricity rates. It's a classic story of conflict of interest and public corruption. This is how he did it.
A livable future.
He does not care about our future. He cares about his future as a millionaire and as an oligarch.
You're harming more than West Virginia. You're harming the whole system.
In the 1980s, Joe Manchin owned several gob mines,
which stands for garbage of bituminous.
It is the dirtiest kind of coal you can burn.
It's really a filthy product. It's full of rock, clay, things that should never enter an incinerator.
As the New York Times uncovered, Manchin used his new position as state senator to win an air pollution waiver so the Granttown power plant near his district was allowed to burn gob, which produces high levels of the toxin sulfur dioxide. In private, Manchin then made a deal to sell his gob to Granttown in exchange for a cut of the plant's revenue. Despite the conflict of interest, Manchin then helped pass tax credits to subsidize power plants that burn gob in West Virginia.
It's poisoned our water, it's poisoned our air, it's poisoned our citizens. And Joe's made money off of it.
As governor, Manchin worked behind the scenes to push for electricity rate increases on people who relied on power from Granttown.
He's helped make sure that this plant gets rate increases to pay for electricity that actually isn't made as cheaply as other forms of energy, including wind and solar, which are also able to be made right here in West Virginia.
Ratepayers were forced to spend millions of dollars in excess fees in one of the poorest states in the country, and Manchin personally benefited from all of it.
Making money off things that you are in charge of, totally immoral, unethical, and all kinds of other words.
Since 2016 alone, Granttown has cost West Virginia utility Mon Power $117 million more than it would have to buy power from other sources. Later, when the EPA proposed
the first ever national mercury and air toxic standards for power plants,
Manchin, now a United States senator, sponsored legislation giving regulatory authority over coal ash to states to get around the laws.
We have this agency stepping way beyond its boundaries, further than our founding fathers ever intended.
He looks at himself in the mirror when he's looking for that inside guy, As the senator, he's the one who's getting rich from the coal company, and as the owner of a coal company, he's the one who's getting the breaks from the senator.
Fast forward to today. For 3 decades, Manchin has made millions as the gob supplier to the plant, while simultaneously getting a cut of the Granttown plant's revenue. That plant is the last in West Virginia that still burns gob, and would be put out of business by the new climate legislation proposed in President Biden's Build Back Better plan. To squeeze out the last profits before a possible closure, the plant's owners tried to force the utility company to buy out its contract, which lasts till 2036. By November, it was clear that the state regulators who would have had to approve that buyout were skeptical. And a month later, Manchin announced that he was opposed to the Build Back Better bill altogether, effectively killing it.
And I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He doesn't care what his constituents think. He doesn't care what environmentalists think. All he cares about is making more money for himself and his crony friends.
The things that happen at this coal plant and across our state only make our water dirtier, our soil dirtier, our air dirtier. And I don't want to have to tell my grandkids or even my kids or even myself in a few years that I can't live here because it's not safe.
Somebody hurting us far too long. And we won't be silent anymore.
Yeah, so when you see the people of West Virginia, their own citizens, protesting against their own senator and their former governor, and pastors there protesting against the, yeah, I mean, you heard what they're saying there. And all this is coming to light now. It's a shame it didn't come to light earlier. It kind of makes you wonder. It kind of makes you wonder. And honestly, this type of stuff happens in politics far too often. Far too often. And honestly, you really wonder how senators and congressmen, their salaries, even though their salaries are maybe like $200,000, it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But let's be honest, they come out of there being worth tens of millions of dollars. So, like, even if you're in there for 5 years, 5 times $200,000 is $1 million. They come out of there worth tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars, not 1 million, tens of millions of dollars. And this kind of gives you an idea how things like this happen. It's not from the salary. Although the salary, it's a lot to an average person, it's nowhere near how the millions are made. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, but it's really sad. And the question here is that we think about stimulus packages, how many people are hurting right now, and relief to Americans. 64% of Americans right now are struggling to pay their bills, are living paycheck to paycheck, or actually behind on their bills right now. We have dozens of states that have stopped their extra SNAP benefits from the pandemic. We think about tens of millions of people are behind on student loans right now. We think about how long it's been since the last stimulus check went out. We think about how many people can't put food on the table. And then we look at scandals like this where politicians are raking in millions and millions and millions of dollars because they're elected by the people and have this power to do evil, to use their power against against what it's supposed to be for. And the problem here is that, like, we look at the Build Back Better package, which had the child tax credits in there, monthly checks for over 60 million children. And guess what? That has not been passed now. And the studies show, I'll show you some headlines right here on the screen. Here's an article back from July 2021. The child tax credit monthly checks and the increased amount of the child tax credits that went from $2,000 per child to $3,000 per child and $3,600 per child for children under the age of 6. And remember, it also went out to millions more people because a lot more people qualified for it now. You didn't have to file a tax return for it, and you were able to get the monthly checks, and it was more money. Child tax credit lifted more than 3 million kids from poverty as of last July. Well, now that it hasn't been able to be passed, and a lot of people solely blame Joe Manchin because he wouldn't give the vote for it. Now, as of a new study, as of January, 3.7 million people are falling back into poverty without the monthly child tax credits. 3.7 million children falling back into poverty. And guess what? This is as of the January payment didn't go out. Now the January payment didn't go out, the February payment didn't go out, the March payment didn't go out, and the April payment didn't go out. And at this rate, the May payment's not going to go out. So think about how many children are in poverty now, not eating like they should, missing meals. And think about all the different programs that may have been passed in the last stimulus package, the Build Back Better package. Think about all the different programs that were in there: paid family and medical leave, benefits for seniors. There's a whole list of things that were in that package that could have been in that package, but Joe Manchin didn't want to vote for it. And now relate that to the story we just talked about, and we're literally taking food out of children's mouths. And I'll show you another article here from CNBC. Joe Manchin's changes that he proposed for the child tax credits, now he might not even vote for it at all. Joe Manchin's child tax credit changes could prevent more than 37 million children from getting aid. Imagine being the person who says, I'm not going to provide aid to 37 million children. I wouldn't want that on my conscience, but you tell me in the comments. As always, I'm not from either party, but this is what's going on here in the news. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything you need to know about on a daily basis. Make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button. It's completely free to do so. After subscribing, click the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you get notifications when we go live. I'll keep you up to date here on this story here as well. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can click here to see my newest video on stimulus checks. We have multiple different states that have already passed state stimulus checks here, about a dozen of them. And federal stimulus checks are on the table here as well for a forced stimulus check. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.